Welcome to the Dr. Stacy Show, where we are talking about all things faith, love, and wellness as it relates to raising our kids. I'm your host, Dr. Stacy, and today we are super excited to have with us Amy Haydak. Amy is a licensed clinical social worker and trauma-informed therapist with over a decade of experience working with children, families, and adults. After earning her master's degree from Stockton University in 2011, Amy began her clinical work with a heart for interrupting the generational cycles of trauma. Over time, she has witnessed how deeply unhealed trauma impacts individuals, especially mothers, and the ripple effect it has on the family system. Amy is the founder of Resilient Roots Therapy, a private practice dedicated to helping individuals heal and reconnect with their inner strength. She chose the name Resilient Roots to reflect her belief that we are all deeply rooted in God's love and strength. And no matter what life throws our way, that strength still exists. We just have to find our way back to it. Her mission is grounded in both biblical principles and evidence-based practices, empowering women to better understand themselves, break free from survival mode, and reclaim their sense of worth. Amy, thank you so much for being part of our show today.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you very much for having me.
Well, Amy, I am super excited to dive in. I know in our pre-show conversation, we were talking about being a mom.
Mm-hmm.
and you know, it's funny. I always say to folks, you know, being a mom, yes, that's my first job. That's the title that I love the most. But that comes with a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm. It sure does.
Often talk about. Tell us a little bit about your journey into motherhood and how that really set the foundation for the work that you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. So before I became a mother, I did a lot of work with children and families, and I loved what I did and thought I was pretty good at it. I mean, for the most part, I was, I think. And then I became a mom and realized that life was way different than what I thought it was. It felt different. The reality of it was different. And your body shows up a lot differently when you become a mom. When you're feeling those big, strong feelings, when you're exhausted, you have this built up resentment from all of the things you still have to do while you're exhausted, whether you have a partner or not, family support, your village, right? There's so many things that impact how we feel, especially after we become a mother. So I realized that there was some healing that I did not do once my daughter probably hit like early toddlerhood. There were some things happening. And I'm like, oh man, so I'm connecting it to past therapy I've done with children and families and moms. I'm like, okay, now this is making a little more sense. Being a mom definitely made me a better therapist, a lot of reflection. But I still had what was happening with me that didn't make sense, you know? And it took a little bit, and, you know, maybe not the best thing as a trauma therapist to say, hey, it took me a while to realize what was happening inside of my body and the way I wanted to react to my child. I have 2 children now, but at the time I just had the one. The way I was reacting to my husband, and I'm like, who am I? What am I doing? It was like very foreign. So many changes were happening. It was definitely a huge shift, personally and professionally.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. I always tell when I have interns and trainees, I'm like, you'll become a better therapist when you become a parent, right?
1000%.
And when you just said it, right, to even to feel the feelings of like resentment or feeling overwhelmed, feeling isolation, like as a therapist in training, you have no idea what that feels like for a parent until you really become a parent. And so when you think about trauma, though, it's interesting because most people will say, well, Amy, I don't have trauma because they're thinking of like what we call big T kind of things. Talk a little bit about some of the trauma that you began to see, even in the mothers that you were working with.
Yeah, absolutely. So I noticed that I was getting referrals and moms were coming in wanting to work on what I call like surface stressors, things that are happening on the day to day. How do I cope with them? How do I deal with this, et cetera, et cetera? And ultimately, what we realized is 2 sessions in, max, you've experienced trauma. And it's not the big, I mean, sometimes very much is the big T traumas, but the trauma that we experienced, how were our emotions handled as children? Were we expected to kind of just handle it on our own? Was it a be quiet, you're fine, stop crying? Was it a you have to be quiet and keep the peace? You have to really overfunction and do well and be perfect to get love, right? All of those things, that's abuse, that's emotional abuse, right? And it shapes who we are as adults. It shapes how we have a relationship with ourselves, what our identity is. A lot of people will be like, oh, I'm just, that's my personality. I really like to stay busy. I like to do this, or I'm a people pleaser. That's just my personality. That's a survival mechanism we learned as children. And then we embrace it almost as adults. So it affects our relationship with ourselves, with our partners, with our friends, with our children. And then we unintentionally pass it down because it's just who we are, right? So yes, it definitely, that's where it ends up kind of showing up. You notice how the surface stresses are happening on the day-to-day. And then we slowly rewind and keep rewinding. And now we have like a birth point for why this started.
I love that. So one of the things that you created, in addition to being a trauma therapist, is a program called Cycle Breaking Program. Talk a little bit about that program.
Yeah, so Cycle Breaker was something that was born from God, to be honest, because I feel like when I opened the coaching practice, I had no idea what I was doing. It was just like, this is what you should do. It felt like I needed to do it. And ultimately, I feel as if God brought me to this point, like this is your passion, and this is your passion. And then as soon as I started it, he was bringing me all these women that fit the program perfectly, which was absolutely amazing. So this program fills in the gaps of what we don't necessarily get to in trauma therapy. There's a lot of trauma processing, a lot of evidence-based, trauma-informed interventions and modalities that we use in trauma therapy, right? Cycle Breaker was born from my own personal experience, from the experience of the women that started to come into my private practice when I switched over. And I was like, man, there's a gap. And if I'm feeling this way, I'm the trauma therapist, I'm the professional, right? If I'm feeling this way, how are these women who have no mental health or trauma background, what's going on with them, right? So I really kind of went step by step, what I was experiencing, being pregnant, newborn, toddler, all of those phases, right? And then our physical changes, the autoimmune diseases that just randomly come at us, right? Like all of these things that they don't tell you about, and I'm struggling with, and I'm like, what is happening to me and my body and these women, right? So the Cycle Breaker program was born a lot from my own personal experience and what I think was missing that I would like to know about, right? Or what I know doesn't necessarily always get to go into the trauma therapy piece. So yeah, between the women I worked with, my own experience, Cycle Breaker was born. It focuses a lot on identity and worth and advocacy and confidence. All of those wonderful, amazing things we very much deserve.
And you just touched on a really wonderful word, identity, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that when in addition to all the physical changes, I always tease people, I'm like, what's the book called? What to do when you're expecting or whatever. And I'm like,
expected.
tell you everything. Like, right, there's so many missing pieces. I read that book from front to cover, and there's so many missing pieces. When you think about identity, what have you seen with women when it comes to being a mom, identity, and how does the Cycle Breaker program help women with that piece?
Yeah, absolutely. Women get very enmeshed in the responsibility of life, which isn't an identity. It's just an autopilot. It's a wake up. I got to do this. I got to do that. I got to go to work, or stay at home mom works. God bless the stay at home moms, because that's even more isolating, right? The isolating that comes with it, or the moms that work from home. And there's so many pieces, right? So I won't ramble about all of that. But yes, there are a lot of pieces in terms of how our identity morphs. My other point in the program is that if we've experienced trauma, didn't even know we experienced trauma, and feel our personality is the survival mode, do we really even know what our identity is prior to becoming a mother? So it might not just be a shift once we become a mother and become enmeshed in motherhood, but potentially before that. So the program examines that a lot of just how are we viewing ourselves? How are we viewing the world? How's the world viewing us? How are others viewing us? Like, it really, these deeper reflections of what does it mean to be a woman? What does it mean to be me? All of these layers. Let's peel away these layers. I asked a question. I'm like, when I say something about the identity or who are you, people tell me what they like to do, which is a decent start. But That's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about what do you like to do for fun? That's a hobby. Who are you? So we take that a lot deep. That's the first module. We do a lot of the identity and the worth. Your identity comes from your worth and from your confidence. And if that's been ripped away from you your entire life, we got some work to do. We got to build that up first to even make a pathway for the identity.
I love that. And part of your program, you have even physical things that people can do. Talk a little bit about that body work and the things that you do to help heal the physical.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a nerd for psychoeducation. So there is a big component in excuse me, in the program that has like the learning piece, the application piece. There's a lot of other mini bonus modules as well, like you just mentioned. There's nervous system meditations in there. There's somatic exercises. All of these are guided. All of these are personalized. I created them myself, recorded them myself. And they're all specifically for whatever that module is. And what's really amazing about these different mini bonus modules, like I said, meditations, the guided exercises, the reflections, and sometimes it's just a nice little like pep talk in there about whatever's going on, of validating and normalizing this is what we're experiencing. No education behind it, no let's fix it, just like let's let it exist. But what's really extra great about the program is as women come in and do these modules, they say, hey, I really liked this, or maybe this should be added, or maybe this should be taken out, right? I'm adapting it and growing it as women are doing the program. We're building it together. So when I say it's personalized, I mean it's personalized, right? It's not just my experience or the experience of 30 women I've worked with. It's the experience of everyone who's going through it, which ultimately might mean there's 10 things in each module, right? And you can pick and choose. But if you're telling me that this is a big part of what you're experiencing, you're not the only one experiencing it. Someone else is too. So I want to make sure that's a part of it.
I love that. Being able to personalize that. You think about time, right? Because most of us moms are in like survival mode, right? And someone hearing saying, hey, but this program, when you think about it, what's the time? How do people work through that? What would that look like for somebody going through the program?
Yeah, I'm very flexible with the time for the exact reason you just shared, right? Your kids are sick, you miss a week. You're behind in at least a week. You're sick, oh gosh, that's a whole different story, right? So ideally, I like to put like a 12 to 16 week mark on it because it's nice to be held accountable to stay on point with it. So I think 12 to 16 weeks is a really good starting point. That'll give everybody a good chance to do like one module every other week, because I want there to be application time. I don't want you to rush through it. I don't want it to feel stressful. That's the exact opposite of the program, right? So if it takes you 17, 18 weeks, that's fine too. But ultimately, you have lifetime access to the online components. Then the coaching calls, you can always add those as you go, right? But you have lifetime access to the components. So as I add to it, you'll get an email. Hey, I added something. You can go back and check it out, even if you've technically finished the program. 5 years from now, you're like, oh man, I need a refresher. Go back and do it again. It's always important.
And the idea that you can have access to it and go back, because that's how I am. Like, I love keeping books and things like that, so I can go back and read it, go back and look at it. Yeah. So when you think about the work that you did, because you started this from like recognizing your own stuff, right? And saying, okay, I need to work through this. And now you're teaching people, working with people. What are some of the things that even for yourself in doing this work, you've been able to heal? What have you heard from other women that has been able to heal? Talk about the success of this type of work.
Yeah, absolutely. So we go through some obstacles, or I would say the core beliefs and the obstacles that tend to pop in our head that one, tell us we can't do this work. And one is I don't have enough time. One is I'm not good enough. Those are usually the two big ones that come up, right? So one, we challenge that first. So be like, well, one, we don't need more time. We need more intention, because you're already living these spaces. So when women are able to realize, all right, I don't need to go out of my way to do, put more on my plate. I just need to know what to do with the moments that I'm living. And then we challenge the I'm not good enough, where that core belief comes from, where, that was a space of survival. That was a space of protection at one point, right? But ultimately, we go through a lot of those things, and these little like aha moments, or I like to say there's like a heaviness that gets lifted when I'm seeing, I don't know how to describe it, but it is a really cool thing to see when women finally like make the connection for that core belief they've lived with their whole lives, or realize they can challenge that obstacle. But some statements I've heard sound simple, but are extremely impactful. One comment I got during one of our coaching sessions was, is this who I am? I like who I'm becoming. I can't wait to get to know her more. I'm paraphrasing, right? But I remember I sat there and I think I put my arms up like I scored a field goal, and I was so excited. Those are the moments I live for. It doesn't have to be this, I'm healed and everything's cured, right? That's not realistic. That's not the goal here. But it's like, I'm a woman and I exist, and it's okay to exist, and it's okay to like who I am. Those moments I will hold on to forever, and that's why I keep doing the work. Another woman shared just the simple concept of, I feel joy. Is this what happiness feels like? I don't think I've felt this before. And we sat in that moment for 10 minutes in session, really just like exploring somatically what that emotion felt like. And it was so amazing. That was really fun too.
Well, and that's what research shows. If we have the happiness and joy as parents, then we can give that to our children. And so that missing piece to say, walking around even feeling like we're not enough, or walking around struggling with how we feel about ourselves. And I love how you said being more intentional, right? Because we're in this space, right? Once you have the babies, you have them, they're yours. So I tell people that's it, right? And the fact that we wake up and we are on go mode all the time, we are in survival mode, and being able to have a space and even having someone to process that with, because as you said, that isolation that hits moms, I think that's one thing that's really key about this program, is that you have someone to process where you're not being judged, right? You go to some family members or a friend and you're not sure what advice you're going to get and what's happening, right? And actually seeing a therapist to help through this role is very different than even relying on family members in our village. When you think about the benefit for children, what's the benefit for a mom and her child? Talk a little bit about how do we help the mom through this program with her parenting?
I think a big motivator is asking just like a reflection question of, what did you need when you were growing up? How did you, like, do you want to pass that to your kid? And it's a very basic, vague question there. But I think that is one of my biggest motivators for me in terms of continuing to do the work, because there are days where I don't want to. There are days where I am just burnt out. I'm emotionally fatigued. I'm physically fatigued. And again, the autoimmune disorders, you never know when those things are going to happen. You got perimenopause and menopause. Like, there are so many factors coming at us that want to challenge and fight that intention, want to challenge and fight that motivation. So I think like coming up with okay, yes, doing this work, I want to do this work because of X, Y, and Z, but what are you really going to hold on to when it's hard, like really hard in those moments? And I think that inner child healing piece that we do in the program as well, but just like simply, what did I need that I didn't get? And do I want to give that to my kids? Do I want to give the opposite to my kid? And then ultimately in 20 years, they're where I am, because that breaks my heart when I think about it. So that is such a big motivator to continue the intention. One activity I like to share is take a picture when you were a child. Maybe it's when a lot of times with emotional abuse, it wasn't just like a one-time thing, right? It was generally the majority of your childhood. So pick a photo of a moment that you remember, put it on your fridge, put it on your mirror, put it somewhere. Your child triggers you, spills the milk, screams, tantrum, whatever it is. Look at the picture and then parent your child the way that little girl or little boy needed to be parented, right? So that moment of intention and that moment of pause of just what did they need in that moment? And then you said it, right? That is so powerful. And I remember when I gave that exercise to my group, I was like, oh yeah, I'll do it too. I'll throw it up there. And then I put one of my photos in there and I was like, oh gosh, now I feel that too. It was not my intention to even feel it because I'm feeling it to help others. But you'd be so surprised at when you find that right motivator, when you find that right skill to ground you in the moments, in the goal, it can be extremely powerful.
Yeah, and that's a wonderful exercise. Thank you for sharing that, because I'm just thinking of the parents that are listening and saying in that moment. And it's funny, actually, what came to mind as you started talking, there's a picture that my daughter thinks is her, but it's really me as a little girl. And when she was little, she'd always run to my room and take that picture. But now I have something I could do with that picture, which I love. Because being that intentional and having a physical thing to look at with intention, I love that exercise. That So Amy, as we're kind of closing out, what would be maybe your final thought, your final nuggets when we talk about trauma healing, when we talk about breaking cycles? What would you want women and parents to know?
That you're not always going to get it right. That there is, give yourself some grace and some room for mistakes, because it's hard. And again, there's days where I still get it wrong, and it's not that I like that, but I'm forgiving myself in that journey. There's also something you can do with that. When you do make a mistake, you can use that opportunity to repair and build that connection with your children, even more than if you were perfect. Right, which is unrealistic too, right? But I know that there are moments where I am vulnerable and I react, and then I sit with my kids once I've calmed down and I have a conversation. They're 6 and 3. The emotional intelligence, and I'm a little biased, but the emotional intelligence of these children, oh my goodness, they are absolutely amazing children. But when I sit down and I'm vulnerable with them and I'm honest with them, it teaches so many things, but you can be humble. You can say, I made a mistake. You can fix your mistake. You can continue to have a relationship with the person you had a conflict with, right? Now, if I'm perfect all the time, and I'm laughing because, again, not realistic, but if I'm perfect all the time, they don't learn that. They don't learn that. If I hide my feelings all the time, if I never say I'm sorry, it's showing them a different message. It's teaching them something different. So honestly, make your mistakes and then go fix them, because I know that teaches so much more than if we don't make mistakes. But yeah, the nugget, I would say, just knowing that what is it, like the posters you see, the growth isn't linear, right? There are so many different stages of healing and growth, and mistakes are included in that. And also give yourself a lot of credit when things go well. I don't care if it's a 1% progress or 100% progress. Give yourself that credit for when you're doing the work, because it's hard.
Absolutely. Oh, I love that. So Amy, before you go, we have our Laffy Taffy joke of the day. I always tell folks that Proverbs 17:22 says a joyful heart is good medicine. So I'm going to give you a Laffy Taffy joke, and I always tease people it's always yellow because banana is my favorite flavor here. All right. So what kind of bug has good etiquette?
Kind of bug has good etiquette.
Mm-hmm. What kind of bug has a good etiquette?
The spider, because it helps to eat other bugs.
I love it. Good try. A ladybug.
Oh, I should see. Ladybugs are a thing for me. Look, I got my ladybug rock. See, ladybugs. Yes, I should have known that.
Well, listen, I always tease people after. I try to get a joke that's related to our topic. So women, it was like a ladybug, and I was like, perfect, awesome. All right. So how can our listeners get in touch with you, learn more about your work, get involved with your program?
Absolutely. So probably the easiest way to find me is just my website. It's my name, amyhaydakcoaching.com. On there, you will see a little bit about the program. There's buttons to download I have a personalized plan to break the cycle and leave a lasting legacy. That's my freebie. So you can download that to get started. It's a 5-step guide. It's a great space to start. With that download, or anybody who's listening, I offer free coaching calls. So the first one is always free. So please feel free, pop on the website, schedule the call. Whether we go over your personalized plan, talk about whatever it is that you want to talk about, either way, it's your free call. So do what you want with it, right? But I'm here for that. So yeah, if you go on the website, you'll see the Cycle Breaker program, all the buttons to connect with me in terms of calls. And and at the bottom of my website, you'll see the link to join my Parenting with Purpose Facebook group. So that is a women's only, mothers only Facebook group, but it's a wonderful growing community of over 900 women so far. And it's all about breaking cycles, parenting, support, connection, identity. It's all about all the things we talked about today. So you can definitely keep in touch with me there on the Facebook group, and then you can DM me on Facebook as well.
Oh, I love it. Thank you, Amy, so much. All right, so before we go, we have our Love the Babies Well segment. And today we really talked about how we can support mothers and breaking those cycles. When I hear Amy say that women are still struggling with things like I'm not good enough or I'm struggling with my kids, parents, I just want to remind you that God gave you the assignment of your kids. And He also gives us resources to help us to be supported in this process. You are not alone, and you weren't intended to parent alone. He's with you, and He's there to help guide you and support you. Parents, we want to be intentional, and part of our journey is being significant in the lives of our children each and every day. And if that means we have to do the work to heal those places that need healing, then let's do that so that our kids can have the best version of us that they possibly can, and that we can heal the cycle that's been going on in our lives. Folks, thanks so much for tuning in today to the Dr. Stacy Show. Until next time, keep the faith, love the babies, and pursue wellness.